I've probably watched the video 25 times at this point from multiple different angles in Minneapolis after 37-year-old Renee Good, who, yes, did have ties to Kansas City. We will talk about that. The car was registered in the state of Missouri, but I've watched it 25 times, give or take. And I spent most of yesterday afternoon watching the video, being like, it just doesn't look great. Just doesn't. And then I watched it from a different angle. I know a lot of us have seen different angles of this video from yesterday where an ICE agent ends up shooting a woman in Minneapolis after she was impeding clearly the work that ICE was trying to do up in Minneapolis, where, of course, they are actively engaged in trying to do their job, which they are legally allowed to do. This woman in a maroon Honda Pilot with Missouri plates ends up basically getting in the way of whatever ICE is trying to do on a snowy street up in Minneapolis yesterday. And then what you see happen is a law enforcement officer, an ICE agent, try to basically get her out of her vehicle to arrest her because she's getting in the way of what they're trying to accomplish up there in Minneapolis. And, of course, her car is locked and she will not get out of the vehicle. She then starts to pull away. Her car is stopped. It's impeding traffic. And then she starts to pull away. And at that moment, there's a different ICE agent who was really not involved with this woman at all. And then what happens is he kind of gets caught off guard. He draws his weapon. She starts driving towards him, but I think really to get out of the way because she wanted to basically evade law enforcement. I don't think that in just watching the video, she was in any way targeting that ICE agent and trying to run him over. But you can see right as the vehicle hits the ICE agent is when he opens fire on the car. And the bullet goes through the windshield and kills this 37-year-old woman, Renee Good, who does leave behind 3 children. A teenager, I think the other one's like 11 or 12, and then a 5-year-old. It's tragic. I feel terrible for her children. But after watching the video and talking to people in law enforcement, and I talked to someone in law enforcement yesterday who felt the same way as me. He watched it over and over and over, and he's like, man, this doesn't really make the ICE agent look good. It makes him look like he's got a quick trigger. But then we both talked about the angle that has not gotten as much attention, where you can see this agent in particular is really not engaged with this car. It looks like he may be even on the phone. And then as he's turning around, suddenly that car starts peeling out of there, the maroon Honda Pilot, and he ends up opening fire. Because he's looking at this thing from 10 feet away, if that, and suddenly he's got a car moving in his direction. Now, is it going 90 miles an hour? No. But when you've got a 2,000, 3,000-pound weapon moving towards you, and you're a member of law enforcement, and you're in a chaotic situation, you've got, it looks like dozens of people on the sidewalk yelling at you, making noises, videotaping you, things like that. And then you've got somebody driving a vehicle towards you. It's easy to say, as I've heard people say over the last 12 hours, shoot the tire. Dive out of the way. It's so easy to say that. And then you realize that's the movies. That's not real life. So while I'm watching this thing over and over and over yesterday and admitting it is absolutely tragic, I can't help but come to the obvious conclusion that you had an individual who was willingly getting in the way of law enforcement, who then basically avoided being arrested. And then, on top of all of that, decides to shift her vehicle into drive and basically clip an ICE agent. At the very least, if that cop or if that ICE agent did absolutely nothing in that scenario, nothing whatsoever, he's getting hit by that car. Now, is he dying? Probably not. Based on the speed the car was moving, he's probably not dead today if he just doesn't do anything. Is he injured? Yes. And when you're talking about split-second decisions in chaotic situations, which is what that was yesterday, and the chaotic situation, let's be very clear, was chaotic because of the woman who was getting in the way, 37-year-old Rashee Good, who has ties to Kansas City. It was a chaotic situation because of her vigilantism. That's why it was a chaotic situation. And it's not that I don't have sympathy or empathy for a woman being dead today. I do, and I think any normal person would. But then you've got to step back and say, why did this tragedy happen? And while, of course, we all know how this is going to work. It's going to go to a jury. You know, we're going to get more evidence. We're going to find out more about what happened leading up to it. All that stuff is going to come out. But just in that moment, watching that clip, it is so easy to Monday morning quarterback it. It is so easy to have 20/20 hindsight in the wake of what you're looking at in that moment. And it's also entirely unfair to the law enforcement official to do that in this moment right now. Now, there's a lot of audio that we've got from last night that we've heard from this morning, and we'll get to here on KCMO Talk Radio. Of course, you know, Governor Tim Walz is someone who is really in a lot of hot water right now. I mean, we said yesterday, Minnesota can't get itself out of the news. It's just crazy. From all the national stories, I mean, the daycare, Walz dropping out of his reelection bid. You got the guy that was killed at Lawrence City Hall, who was coming from Minnesota. We talked about that yesterday. We talked about all these Minnesota stories with some ties to Kansas City. Little did I know the biggest one was coming yesterday afternoon. I mean, it was like a running joke on the show yesterday about how much Minnesota stuff we've got with ties to Kansas City, and now we have another one today. But Tim Walz gets up there as the governor of the state and is just so irresponsible. I'm not going to sit here and blame the guy. But, man, his rhetoric certainly has not helped, okay? It definitely has not helped the situation, and he doubled down on that rhetoric yesterday.
We've been warning for weeks that the Trump administration's dangerous, sensationalized operations are a threat to our public safety, that someone was going to get hurt. Just yesterday, I said exactly that. What we're seeing is the consequences of governance designed to generate fear, headlines, and conflict. It's governing by reality TV. And today that recklessness cost someone their life.
Donald Trump using ICE agents to do what they are lawfully allowed to and frankly supposed to do, which his predecessor, of course, had no interest in because he was too busy, I would argue, breaking the law with open borders policy. But that kind of stuff right there does not tone the temperature down in the room. And I'm not sitting here and telling you that Trump is the greatest temperature toner downer that exists. I'm not saying that, okay? There's fair criticism that goes around on that front. But then let's call it both ways. Let's say, yeah, there are times that absolutely Trump can bring down the temperature, and people like to howl about that. And I give him that. But when you're the leader of the state in that moment yesterday, and your first gut reaction is to not just say, we've got a tragedy on our hands, we're going to let law enforcement do its job. We believe that, by the way, the law enforcement that is here, as much as we may disagree with it, they are lawfully allowed to be here. We do not want citizens getting in the way of, even if we disagree with the law enforcement doing its job. We've got to protect our citizens right now. Instead of saying those things, even if you disagree, and I'm not saying that Tim Walz can't disagree with the policy of the president. He's allowed to. It's America. But basically putting the blood of Rashee Good on the hands of this administration is so wildly irresponsible and out of line from this guy. And it is from any leader. And we talk a lot about trying to figure out a way to make the conversation more approachable, more conversational, more agreeable when appropriate. We talk about that all the time on this show. But man, I'll tell you what, leaders across the board continue to fail. And if they can't do it, there's a downstream effect. If they're not willing to do it, then you know what? A lot of regular people watching from the sidelines are going to sit there and say, why am I going to do it? And I know that Walz doesn't like Trump for a multitude of reasons, okay? Whether it's stuff happening over the last few weeks or stuff that happened on the campaign trail from 15 months ago. But dude, someone's got to put on their big boy pants in that moment, and it sure as heck was not him. So this whole thing is absolutely tragic. And the first thing that should have came out of Tim Walz's mouth is, as much as many of us disagree with what's going on, we cannot get in the way of law enforcement doing its job. He can engage people. You can talk about political activism. You can talk about getting out to the polls in the midterms and this and that and the next thing. But you cannot encourage people to go out there and do what happened yesterday. You just can't do it. 913-408-7957. So what exactly are the ties to Kansas City for Renee Good? Where are her parents in the Kansas City area? What are they saying right now? We have those answers coming up next. Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, and you can stream us all morning long on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
From Overland Park to Parkville, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
So 37-year-old Renee Good, who was shot and killed by an ICE agent yesterday in Minneapolis, filed a petition in Jackson County Circuit Court October of 2023 to change her last name, and she gave an address in Kansas City. According to her petition, Good wanted to change her last name from Renee Nicole Macklin to Renee Nicole Macklin Good. Her stated reason for the name change: I want to share a name with my partner. The document said that Good had 3 children, who at the time of the filing were ages 13, 10, and 3. The 2 older kids live in Colorado, and the youngest lived in Kansas City. A judgment approving the uncontested name change was entered November 21st of 2023. So you have this woman who had Missouri plates. I know a lot of you picked up on that right away yesterday. I did not. I watched the thing 25 times, and then I didn't recognize the Missouri plates at all until I started seeing some of that pop up in local news, because I'm so busy just looking at the people involved and the officers and the car and when it hits the cop and how this back and forth goes down. So I know, and I'm seeing some of your texts right now at 913-408-7957. Pete, it's not tragic, it's consequences. No, listen, it can be both, okay? It can be both. Yes, this woman's getting in the way and impeding ICE. I completely disagree with that and what she was doing, and she should have been arrested. But I'm sorry, when even if that person is, yes, breaking the law, the fact that she ends up dead as the mother of a 5-year-old, I find that tragic, okay? I find it tragic that a 5-year-old does not have their mother at home, even though the mother made decisions that were really dumb, that were illegal, and that, yes, risked her life. It can still be tragic. It's okay, guys. It's still a fellow American, even if that person vehemently disagreed with most of us. It's okay to call it tragic. We don't need to be super tribal about that part of it, okay? There are times when tribalism I get, and trust me, I'll be tribal when appropriate, but you can call this tragic. It's okay. It's a fellow human being. It's an American who, was doing illegal stuff. But when you leave behind 3 kids, including a little one, including a 5-year-old, it's tragic. And that's what I come back to with this one. And listen, that ICE agent involved, it's tragic that his life has changed forever too. And I don't know if he's going to get a fair shake up there in Minneapolis. It seems like Derek Chauvin didn't. The cop, of course, who was convicted of murder in George Floyd's case. I don't know how this is going to go for this ICE agent. And I do know I have empathy and sympathy for him in that spot as well. I mean, I'm seeing people say, shoot the tire, shoot this, shoot that, just jump out of the way. Like, it's some kind of Tom Cruise movie. That's not real life. It's not. So all around, what you need is leadership to step up at this time and just lead on the local level, on the state level, and on the federal level. And certainly on those first 2, you're not seeing it. You're just not. That does not exist right now. And that's a darn shame up there, but it's part of the reason the state's in the position that it's in right now. Now, what was she doing up in Minneapolis? That is something we don't know. I mean, she had ties to Kansas City, she had ties to Colorado, and then also had ties to now Minnesota. So now we just sit here and we wait, and we hopefully get more of the information and see how it plays out. 913-408-7957. Let's go to Tom. He's in Paola. What's up, Tom? You're on KCMO.
Hey, good morning, man. Yeah, you just kind of alluded to my question. It begs the question, what was she even doing up there? I mean, is she, we hear so much about paid protesters and everything. Is that what this is? Maybe. I mean, it just Minnesota's not a short drive up there. I mean, it takes a little bit to get there. There's just a lot of questions that need to be asked, I think.
I would agree with that. She moved to Minneapolis last year and had lived in the Twin Cities with her partner, according to the Minnesota Star Tribune.
moved up there.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so she had been up there for a period of time. But like you, I mean, I'm sitting here on yesterday was a Wednesday, and it's like, you got 3 kids. Do you work for a living, or do you just drive around trying to figure out how to get in the way of ICE doing its job, John?
Yeah, I think one of the stories indicated that the vehicle had been serviced in this area in February, just this last year, about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
she's been in the
so
area. That's recent.
that times out with being up there for about a year, give or take.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that makes all the sense in the world. Now, I'm sure that things will come out in terms of if she had ties to any protest groups or organizations. I mean, clearly this person put their politics above all else, including her children. I mean, that's indisputable. She put the politics above her kids. And I saw this yesterday, and it really broke my heart. That Renee Good, mother of 3 per the Associated Press, had 2 kids, 15 and 12, from her first marriage. Her 6-year-old child's father died in 2023. So this 6-year-old has lost both of its parents. This woman made massive mistakes. I'm not denying that for a second. This woman was reckless. This woman clearly did not put her children ahead of her political activism. And her political activism and law breaking, which is clearly what was going on there, cost her her life. Okay? Clearly. That is indisputable. That being said, man, it is just gut-wrenching to know that a 6-year-old has now lost both of their parents. That is absolutely tragic. It is. And it's not as simple as like FAFO. I know people want to make it out to be that, but man, it is not that simple. And when I talked to somebody in law enforcement, I mean, they said to me yesterday, this is someone who I know well, you may know as well. And he said to me, he goes, boy, I was with you. I was kind of on the fence on this. But then when you see the angle from the backside, as this guy who ends up shooting her is not really paying attention to that car because he's doing something else, he spins around, that car is moving right towards him. It is a split-second gut reaction in that moment to stop the threat. That's what you're doing in that spot. And that's what you're largely taught to do in that spot. 913-408-7957 as we roll through a Thursday morning on KCMO. Mayor Quinton Lucas will be here in his usual Thursday 7:30 slot, our first conversation of 2026. And we've got your first chance today to win tickets to go see Riley Green at Stagecoach coming up at 7:35 right here on KCMO.
On Thursday's Guy Benson show, Trish McLaughlin of the Department of Homeland Security reacting to the shooting incident in Minneapolis yesterday, coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
We got a lot to get to here this morning on KCMO Talk Radio, 6:33 on a Thursday. Mayor Lucas, 1 hour from now. We'll get his first public comments on what happened in Minneapolis yesterday. That should be a doozy. He has not posted anything about it on social media yet, so I will ask him. Bart's in Lawrence. Bart, what's going on?
Hey, I just wanted to mention that this woman did not just make mistakes. She committed crimes. She was interfering with a peace officer in the performance of their duty. That's a crime.
Yes.
She was resisting arrest. That's a crime. She then tried to flee that arrest and assaulted an officer with a deadly weapon. These are all crimes.
Yes. I'm not disagreeing with
nobody's really talking about
well,
that.
I don't know. I mean, I think that, listen, the diehard anti-ICE people right away, no matter what they see with their own two eyes, are going to obviously make it out to be an anti-ICE thing, right? But I've actually seen, surprisingly, more fair coverage of this because you can't deny the video that shows the ICE agent getting hit at the split second that he fires his firearm.
Yep.
Are you former law enforcement, Bart?
Yes, I was. I was a California Highway Patrolman.
So let me ask you this then. The shots after the initial shot through the side window, the purpose of that at that point is what?
She's committed assault with a deadly weapon.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you have somebody who is behaving with a malignant attitude towards society,
mm-hmm.
and they have a duty, and they have the option to use deadly force to stop that.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Because I saw like Stephen A. Smith. I watched him last night on News Nation, and he's like, "Shoot him in the tire, shoot the tire out." It's like that's like when Biden was saying, "Shoot people in the ankle" or something like that. It's like, you guys did the job obviously for years, but one thing I know about law enforcement is if you have to use the weapon, you have to target center mass. Correct?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you're going to use a weapon, a deadly weapon, the purpose of using the deadly weapon is to end a threat.
Yeah.
And to end it as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I get it. Bart, thanks for your service and thanks for the call.
Thank you.
All right. By the way, Bart went from California to Lawrence. I don't know. That's... I mean, we love our friends in Lawrence.
The weather.
Yeah.
Right.
Bart probably was like, I'm going to go to Kansas. It's wholesome. It's a little more right of center than where I've been. And then he ends up in Lawrence. Whoops. I'm saying that tongue in cheek, Bart. I'm sure you're there for a reason, and we appreciate the insight. I'll tell you what, 95.7 FM is now booming in Lawrence. I used to take the girls out to KU. They would have, the oldest, Claire, had a dance recital there a couple of times. And this was before we were on 95.7 FM. We were still just on 710 AM, and then we had the 103.7 FM, which was just a little pea shooter translator. And 710 was always spotty depending on which hill you were going up and down in Lawrence. But now I know, because we've got a lot more traction there in Lawrence, that 95.7 FM is, 95.7 FM booms all the way almost out to Manhattan. So it has been, it's been now 2.5 years, but still, I love hearing from folks outside of the traditional listening area. Mark in Independence. Good morning, Mark. You're on KCMO.
Hey, quick to the point. I'm retired military. Center mass because you don't have time to blink, number one. Number two, let's reverse the situation. And let's say that there was a security guard in an abortion clinic and somebody pulled up there and thudded that security guard and raised the engine. What would the libs be saying then?
Yeah. Throw that proposal at me again.
Let's reverse the situation. Let's say there's a security guard at an abortion clinic.
Oh,
there's a protest going on.
Yeah.
Somebody drives the car towards the abortion clinic and nudges the security guard, and he fires. I don't hear the left crying then.
Yeah. Now, listen, here's the reality, Mark. It's a sad reality. But before most people saw the video yesterday, they probably had an opinion on the video. Because that's the climate that we find ourselves in right now. You're either Team ICE or you're Team ICE protester. So right away, people are going to back into their corners and they're going to justify the actions of their preferred side, John.
Just like the Hilton and Hampton thing.
Yes.
Right? You're immediately making an inference out of the headline you read before you get all the details.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And that's what happened here yesterday. And that's why for me, I admit my first reaction was this, like, I understand what happened, but then it didn't look great. And then you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out what are all the angles. And then when you see a clear angle of this guy not being engaged with the car, and then the split second he's hit by the vehicle, he's also firing his weapon. It's like boom, boom, right there, back to back. And you're saying it's indisputable. This person, to Bart's point, is getting in the way of law enforcement, resisting arrest, trying to flee law enforcement, and then also, while she's not barreling down the street 90 miles an hour, is hitting an officer with a vehicle, with a deadly weapon. But it still, of course, can be a tragedy, which is what it is. So yesterday, back here in Kansas City, of course, this woman having ties to Kansas City, but what's happening here in Kansas City is a Clay County Commissioner, Jason Withington, posting on his social media that he's done with the Royals. Now, Jason's been on this show. He does a nice job up there in Clay County, but I'm here to tell you that he's not calling the shots. He's not. Okay? He's not superseding Jerry Nolte. This is just his opinion. Jason Withington writes on social media yesterday, Clay County Commissioner, I loathe the business of baseball. Like Kansas, I'm done negotiating with the Royals. We worked in good faith for November of 2025, meaning getting them on the ballot for November of 25 because they need a sales tax in Clay County to get any of the state money. Then April of 26, meaning they are up against a deadline right now in January to get something on the ballot for April of 2026. They have to, as I understand it, the Royals have to basically signal to Clay County by probably middle of this month, next week sometime, that they want to be on the ballot in Clay County for a sales tax for the Royals to get on that April ballot.
Yeah. The story I read said it's today, or at least Jason was inferring it was today.
Yeah.
And then he said that the Royals said they weren't ready for today. So that's his version of it.
That's his version. Okay.
Right.
And then Jason says here, they're not ready for either. At some point, you stop negotiating. The Royals are not done in Clay County. And I mean that with all due respect to Jason, but he ain't calling the shots here. He can have an opinion, but he's not the point person for the negotiations anyway. So it's don't overstate this.
Mm-hmm.
It's one commissioner who has an opinion who's not the head of the commission.
Seems like maybe he had invested a lot of personal time in trying to get them ready for an August deadline for the November ballot, and that didn't pass. And maybe he worked a little bit more, and this didn't pass. Like, if today's the day, as he infers, he's burned out, and maybe he shouldn't have hit send, so to speak.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of incidents of that this week. You're better off just keeping that to yourself, maybe.
That is exactly right.
Possibly.
So, yeah, I did see that 41 saying here that today is the deadline for the Royals to appear on the April 26th ballot. I'm not sure that's true. I don't know if that was a self-imposed deadline or what it was, but my understanding was that it was maybe a little bit later in the month. But either way, this is the opinion of one commissioner. That's what this is. It does not mean the Royals are not going to Clay County, but it does mean this. I mean, with each passing day, the Royals are becoming more frustrating to everybody in Kansas City. Everyone. Except for maybe Mayor Lucas, who's like, come on back to me, baby. Come on, I'm here for you. Open arms. Let's go. Let's go. I got you covered here, guys. I mean, you had Dan Hawkins yesterday, Speaker of the House, say that he's done with the Royals. You had a commissioner in Clay County say he's done with the Royals. So, and by the way, now it's like, where do you go? Kansas City's looking better by the day because it might be the only option left, John.
I like to go back to jacking around with the Stockyard state line thing, with left field bullpen over here, that kind of thing.
Oh, man.
Might as well start from scratch.
Yeah, might as well, man. Might as well. But I'll tell you what, I have not seen a negotiation go this poorly for a professional team where they are just getting, or they're ticking off literally everybody that they're trying to do business with. It is, wow. It's embarrassing.
Maybe if they could have brought us a cleanup hitter,
Yeah.
they might have been a little more enthusiastic for the whole rest of this BS, right? Get the order right here.
Oh, that would
Our
be
needs
good.
are but simple.
That would be good, man. That would be good. Although I did see this, people were, I don't know where this came from the other day on social media, but I saw this. People were raving about, hey, this Royals rotation of Reagans and Bubich and Lugo and Waka and Cameron is like the most underrated rotation in Major League Baseball. So I just shared that post on X, and I said, unfortunately, no one in baseball history has figured out how to win games 0 to -1.
I was going to say, now we're getting into soccer kind of things here.
Yeah.
So we can just figure out how to win 1-0.
Exactly. It's like, man, that only gets you so far, okay? You got to do the other part of the game, and that's hit the baseball. Unbelievable. Coming up, the 6 at 6, top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour we'll get to next on 95.7 FM, KCMO.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
6:49, good morning. Happy Thursday. The rain will be falling soon, if it's not already, in parts of Kansas City, and it will be heavy until early afternoon, and that's when we get the big winds coming in, according to our buddy Luke Doris. But it is that time of the morning. Let's do it.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
Look at this. Gas prices dropping everywhere around the Kansas City metro. It's about damn time. Before Christmas, we were talking about how the Buc-ee's down in Springfield was running under $2 a gallon. And we were still sitting at about $2.60 a gallon up here in the Kansas City area. Well, now, according to Fox 4 yesterday, Quick Trip on State Line Road is $2.49 for a gallon of regular. Shell Station Midtown selling at $2.59. At the Amstar Johnson Drive in Mission, right by the old station there. The sign outside is advertising gas for $2.29 per gallon. That is absolutely fantastic. Man, we need more of that. I haven't checked my local pump in a while. I haven't been in a couple days. So I got to see where we're at. But either way, it looks like we're under $2.50 a gallon. So I'm not sure we're going to get to Springfield prices anytime soon. But you guys fill up at all lately?
I got $2.45 yesterday by my house.
That's right.
So not
okay.
too bad.
What was it, a Quick Trip or a...
Quick Trip, yeah.
All right. I know. You're loyal. You're loyal. John, what are you at, man?
Missouri side, I think I was at $2.39.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
I may drive to Missouri just to, get my gas if we're saving 5-10 cents a gallon there.
Like the betting thing, just sneak across the state line. That's all you got to go.
That's right. I like that. All right. Very good. Very good. Good sign there. Good stuff.
Number 2.
All right. Next up. Your health. Look at this. A new food pyramid was released yesterday. And it's all good in my book. This comes from Health and Human Services and the USDA. The newest version emphasizes fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, and healthy fats, while taking a firmer stance on added sugars, stating that no amount of added sugar should be part of a healthy diet. It also shifts away from prioritizing whole grains above proteins and fats, a notable change from past guidance. So this was all part of a rollout yesterday. Eat Real Food. Realfood.gov is where you can go. That's realfood.gov to take a look at some of the changes. And, it says right here on the homepage, America is sick. 50% of Americans have prediabetes or diabetes. Okay, we're not doing a good job on this whole diet thing. Yet some people are going to be like, oh, boy, it's Dr. Oz and RFK, and they're total quacks, and don't believe anything they say. No, they're spot on. Sugar is the real killer here. It's not salt. It's not fats. It's sugar, John.
They can take the suggested new food pyramid or the Trump food pyramid. Large fry on top of Filet-O-Fish, on top of Quarter Pounder, on top of Big Mac.
We have pizzas. We have 300 hamburgers. Many French fries.
Yeah, Trump's absolved from the new food pyramid, okay? He wouldn't let them roll out the food pyramid until he knew he was absolved from it. He says, guys, you can do a full press conference, just leave me out of it. Notice how this is like the one press conference Trump was not a part of, right? What's Trump going to do? Get up there and be like, yes, we must eat more lean proteins, more fruits and vegetables. Now, where's my Filet-O-Fish? Give me that Quarter Pounder. And a Diet Coke.
Well, the Buca de Beppo trip where that comedian was talking about was the carbonara. Yeah. They got it's bacon. They call it something else, but it's bacon. Yeah.
Oh,
lots
man.
of peas.
Yes, that's right. That's right. All right, let's keep it rolling.
Number 3.
Next up, another store pulling out of the plaza. Madewell KC, known for its leather bags and women's and men's casual clothing. They're owned by J. Crew. They have confirmed they'll be closing their doors, 309 Nichols Road, January 31st, this month, end of the month. Now, their Town Center Plaza location, 119th and Nolan Leawood, is still open for business, but they are shutting down on the plaza. So you've had a lot of that lately, Nickel and Suede, Beauty Brands, Parachute, the Brio Grill, all shutting down over the last several months, and now Madewell, high-end shopping store, mostly for women, is also closing on the plaza.
Number 4.
Rolling through it, this is just a bizarre situation in Los Angeles. Spencer Pratt is running for mayor of L.A. Now, I feel like you hear the name and you're saying, why do I know that name? Why do I know that name?
Grandpa recognized that one.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Good for you, John. I'm impressed you recognized that name. Very impressed. So he's, I guess, a washed-up reality TV star. He's married to Heidi Montag.
Yeah. Heidi and Whitney were more the feature piece, so he was just in the trailing along there.
Yes. And they were in The Hills reality TV show going back, gosh, it's got to be at least 15 years at this point, maybe 20, somewhere in there. And, his house burnt down in the Palisades fires from last year in L.A. And he announced yesterday that he is running for mayor of Los Angeles. How about that? I don't know if he's got a chance, but I like it.
Man could cop an attitude,
yeah.
So, maybe he'll bring that forward.
Exactly right, man. Exactly right.
Number 5.
Now, we'll stay in L.A., where Nick Reiner's defense attorney, Alan Jackson, withdrew his case yesterday. Of course, Nick Reiner, son of Rob and Michelle, appeared in court with a shaved head, wore a tan jumpsuit. He is accused of killing both of his parents, and he's now represented by a public defender and will be arraigned on February 23rd. Jackson cited circumstances beyond his and Nick's control as to why he decided to step down from the case. So this is a bizarre situation. Jackson saying yesterday, circumstances beyond our control, beyond Nick's control, have dictated this. It's made it impossible for us to continue our representation of Nick. I'm legally and ethically prohibited from explaining all the reasons why. Okay.
Number 6.
Well, let's go to the hardwood, where K-State got smoked by Arizona last night, 101-76, but Mizzou beat Kentucky 73-68. Any wagers last night there on FanDuel, Big Mark?
I didn't. I did have Arizona, but I didn't put a bet on it.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that was an easy pick.
Yeah.
Sorry, K-Staters. That was easy. Woof, man. Wildcats, I don't know if Jerome Tang's going to hang on. He's just got such a big buyout. It's like, you really going to get rid of him? It's tough. There's your 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio. Coming up, an out-of-control response to the tragedy in Minneapolis next. You just heard it, top of the hour news on our Fox News update. Good morning, 7:04 on a Thursday across Kansas City. Thanks for joining us. Of course, the big national news story of the day and of the last 24 hours has been this woman, Rashee Rice, who lived in Kansas City for a period of time, was shot and killed by an ICE agent while protesting yesterday and then resisting arrest and then driving her vehicle right into an officer who opened up fire on her. So that's what happened yesterday. If you haven't seen the video, you can find it for yourself and you can look it up and you can come to your own conclusion on it. I struggled with it yesterday. And then I talked to law enforcement last night and a couple of folks. And actually one individual said to me, he said, "Hey, Pete, I was with you all day. I wasn't sure how I felt about this. And then I saw the angle that is not getting as much attention. It's from probably 100 feet away on the back side of the vehicle. And you can see this cop, this ICE agent, is not really paying attention to the maroon car driven by Rashee Rice. He's doing his own thing. It looks like he might be on the phone. And then he turns around, split-second decision, car is driving basically right towards him, right into him, and he opens fire. And he goes, that was the moment as the car hits him and he opens fire. It's like, boom, boom, right there, back to back. That's when he said, in that moment, I've got to give the cop in that situation or the ICE agent in that situation the benefit of the doubt. She put herself in a horrible spot, did multiple illegal things over the 60 seconds leading up to her death. It still is a tragic death. There's no disputing that, right? I find it still to be a tragedy that this woman, who, yes, made every mistake in the book, leaves behind 3 minor children, including a 6-year-old, who lost its father in 2023 and now doesn't have a mother. I think that's horrible. But a lot of mistakes were made by this person leading up to the tragedy that took place. Did she deserve to die over what happened? I don't know. That's not my call to make. What I do know is that when you stack up illegal decision on illegal decision on illegal decision, you are increasing your chances of a tragedy like that taking place. So yesterday, the whole world is watching Minneapolis. And what do you get from its leadership? I mean, you get people like this. You get do-nothing, wannabe Broadway stars like Jacob Fry, and that's really where Jacob Fry is. I mean, the guy, it looks like with the way he acts, the way he speaks, the way he leads, going back to George Floyd, he comes off like a guy who wants to be on Broadway and couldn't make it. So he settled for politics. And politics is where he gets to pretend. Politics is where he gets to act. And this is what you got out of the mayor of Minneapolis yesterday.
To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. Somebody is dead. That's on you. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying. To the family, I'm so deeply sorry. We're going to be working towards justice as quickly as we possibly can right now. And justice is what we've all got to get. We're going to make sure that in this very difficult moment, we do not take the bait that these ICE agents are trying to create and that the federal government, to be clear, wants.
Well, he's certainly turning down the temperature. I mean, I'm telling you, this guy, he would much rather be performing in a Hamilton. Maybe he's more of a Moulin Rouge guy. I don't know. But he'd rather be on Broadway than actually being the mayor. So he gets to get up there. He gets to do his dog and pony show, his pomp and circumstance, and he gets to act like a tough guy and do what his base in Minneapolis wants him to do. Is he helping the situation? Not one bit. Not one bit. Is he doing anything that's beneficial to his own citizenry? Absolutely not. In fact, he's doubling down. And it's this kind of tragic rhetoric about ICE that we've seen over the last 12 months that has led to now multiple tragedies and has driven people crazy. we had the shooting down in Dallas a couple of months back. Remember that? There was the person on the rooftop who was targeting ICE agents and ends up instead shooting and killing those who were arrested by ICE outside of a facility down in Dallas a couple of months back. You have this person yesterday, Renee Good, 37 years old, lived in Kansas City up until about a year ago, go up there and just clearly act like a vigilante and try to take the law into her own hands. And then when they try to stop her, tragedy ensues. And that's what's going to happen here. I mean, this kind of rhetoric does have consequences. Now, many of you on the text line are out there and you're alleging, like, is she a paid protester? What is she doing out there middle of the day? I don't know. We don't have any of that information yet. It's not clear what she's doing middle of the day, broad daylight, out there getting in the way of ICE doing its job. Because there were witnesses in the area as well who talked to some local media, and they made it very clear that Renee Good was somebody who was leading the charge on this specific protest that was going on of these agents. And it's amazing because you've got dozens of people on the side of the road recording all of this, which is also strange to me. I'm like, it's the middle of the day on a Wednesday. Does anybody work around here? Do these people, like, go to jobs? Or are they all just videographers for social media or something like that to try to get in the way of ICE? Because that's what it looked like yesterday.
They clearly wanted her out of there because she was the main car leading the protest, is my understanding. I talked to another guy who was driving behind her, but she was very successful in blocking traffic. She was doing what she was set out to do, and so they wanted to get her the hell out of there. Yeah.
So it looked like she was impeding ICE vehicles.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
That was her goal.
And when you play stupid games, you can unfortunately win very stupid prizes. And actually yesterday, the first person I talked to about it, because I was struggling while watching the video all day, was Kate. And I said to her, hey, would you look at this video? Just let me know what you think. She didn't even know what had happened. I mean, listen, she's home with the kids. Life's busy. I get it. So I wanted just like an unbiased perspective, right? I said, look at this video. What do you see? Because I'm struggling with this, right? That's what I told her. I said, not that I'm supporting this woman at all for breaking the law multiple times. I'm just saying, what did you think when you see the video? And she goes, I see a lady who had no business being in the position that she was in and then driving right towards a cop and unfortunately finding out in a very tragic way the consequences of breaking the law. And I'm like, okay. All right. I mean, she was more solid on this than I was after watching the video.
Mm-hmm. I've only seen one, and maybe I'm fortunate. The first one I saw was what I'll call a 3/4 from the rear side, maybe back from the tail light where you could see down the side of the vehicle as it pulled away, and you can see the officer out front. So that's the only one I've seen. And that looked pretty open and shut to me as to what it was.
Yes.
Where she was heading towards the officer, and he's going to react. They're saying she wasn't driving fast or whatever, but I would indicate you're going as fast as you can go at that point in the sense that you're starting from zero from a dead stop.
Correct. And then you're backing up and then you're going forward, knowing full well you have an ICE agent sitting there right in front of you.
Well, we've had incidents where somebody drives into a parade in Wisconsin and down in New Orleans at New Year's Eve, et cetera. All kinds of incidents with a vehicle being involved.
Exactly. That happens too. So we've got all these things now that you're looking at, and it's easy to sit there and say, shoot the tire. The car's not going 90 miles an hour down the street. And I've seen a lot of that on social media. You got to stop watching the movies. I mean, come on. You're not watching some Bruce Willis or Tom Cruise flick here. It's not what you're watching. This is real life people in real life, high stress situations. That's what you're looking at. Before we get to the break, let's fit in Sarah in Raymore. Go ahead, Sarah. You're on KCMO. Good morning.
Good morning. My first reaction to this after I saw the videos and all of that is that, we're coming off of the Nick, is it Nick Shaver, or the YouTuber that put the information out there about Somalia in Minneapolis. And we're coming off of that. There's lots of pressure to control what's going on up there, so they have to divert. The left does. Like, those local politicians have to divert. So I feel like they shipped in or brought in the protesters, and they're trying to turn this into a George Floyd thing. And, unfortunately, there will be a lot of people that fall for it, and they shouldn't, because there was a lot of fraud going on up there that shouldn't be ignored. And at the end of the day, they just sort of let law enforcement do what they need to do and get out of the way. And I'm sorry that happened, but unfortunately, I think what's going to happen is this is going to turn into George Floyd Part 2.
I appreciate the call there, Sarah. Thank you very much for making it. One thing that I will say, one of the few responsible things that Tim Walz did say yesterday, the governor of Minneapolis, is basically protest peacefully. So it seems like they understand riots would look bad for them. But secondarily, I don't think we're going to get George Floyd 2.0. And there's two reasons for it. And reason number one, I hate to be this blunt, but the woman's white. And reason two, it's January in Minneapolis. I think those two reasons are two of the main reasons we will not get a George Floyd 2.0 protest. Mayor Lucas will be here at 7:35 on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. Streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. We got some drama in Chiefs Kingdom. And no, it's not about the stadium. It's about some nasty allegations that surfaced about a player next.
On Thursday's Guy Benson Show, Trish McLaughlin of the Department of Homeland Security reacting to the shooting incident in Minneapolis yesterday. Coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
Wouldn't be the offseason without some Chiefs drama, right? Jeez.
Boy, I guess.
Yesterday, an ex-girlfriend of wide receiver Rashee Rice made a social media post alleging domestic abuse. The Chiefs said in a statement, the club is aware of the allegations on social media, is in communication with the National Football League. We have no further comment at this time. Rice's ex-girlfriend, Dakota Nicole, posted a collection of photos that showed damage to a house and bruising on her face and body. She posted a lengthy caption, did not mention Rice by name, but noted here, I'm so tired of keeping quiet. I'm so tired of protecting his image. I've been through too much in a span of 8 years, and I've had enough. I've dealt with abuse for years. Me and this man decided to break up a couple of months ago, and since then it's been nothing but hell. Now, Rashee Rice and this woman have 2 sons. Nicole went on to detail the allegations, including a home break-in, cheating, and cutting up her shoes, saying he's very controlling. There have been times he's come to my home, broken my door. He would put his hands on me while I was pregnant, even had the audacity to lock me outside all night in 10-degree weather because he got caught cheating. She says here he's cut up all my shoes and clothes, leaving me with nothing because he's gotten caught up. And there's multiple instances of cheating, but besides that, I'm just tired of him not doing right by my boys. It's not fair he doesn't call them. He'd rather be laid up with hoes, she alleged. Now, I don't know what's true here. I have no idea. We know this, that Rashee Rice was suspended 6 games, of course, this past season, for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. The suspension stemmed from his 2 third-degree felony charges from a March 2024 crash on a Dallas highway. He was driving a Lamborghini 119 miles an hour. He made multiple aggressive maneuvers around traffic before crashing into other vehicles. Rice did not check on those vehicles involved in the crash and fled on foot. You know, the first thought I had here, I mean, listen, if any of this is true, he should be done in Kansas City. But we understand that there have been allegations over the years against professional athletes, and they were not true. I did see there was some stuff going around yesterday on this story that Rashee Rice's grandmother was going off on this woman in the comments section of this post, saying that she's full of it, none of it's true, you know, she's looking for money, the whole thing. I'm not going to sit here and say Rashee Rice is guilty, even though I don't think he's the best dude based on what we know happened on that highway in Dallas almost 2 years ago. But heck, we saw it with, what's his name, the punter. You know, you just get these allegations that sometimes come against professional athletes, and they're not always true. So I don't know what happened here. I know this, though. I was critical at the time when the Chiefs showed up on the field before a game, including Travis Kelce, and had those free 4 T-shirts. Remember that? Rashee Rice is number 4.
Yep.
And they were acting like Rashee Rice was some victim here. Yo, the NFL's out to get him. And I was like, somebody had to see these T-shirts and be like, guys, you are not stepping on the field with free 4 T-shirts on. You're not. This guy's lucky he didn't kill somebody. Going 119 miles an hour on the freeway in Dallas, crashing into multiple vehicles, and then fleeing on foot. Okay, this is not some victim here. I know it's popular for everybody to claim victim status in America in 2026, but Rashee Rice was not a victim then. And it's like, man, these guys should know better. Travis Kelce, who wore one of these shirts, should know better. If it was like one of his punk first or second year teammates who's like, I'm going to stand up for Rashee, maybe. But Travis Kelce, leader of the team, you know what kind of character guy you've got there. Do better. And that's where it's like, I'm willing to wait for facts to come out on these types of stories because they can go in sometimes a wrong direction. But I'll tell you what, I'm not necessarily wanting to give the benefit of the doubt. Mayor Quinton Lucas joins us for the first time in 2026, coming up next.
From Smithville to Shawnee Mission, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
It's our first conversation of 2026, and it is with Kansas City Mayor Quinton Lucas here on KCMO Talk Radio. Mr. Mayor, good morning. Happy New Year. Thanks for being on the show as always.
It is great to be back. Happy New Year. It is starting off pretty strong.
I would say so. Can you believe, by the way, this is our last full year having these conversations with you as the mayor for the entire 12 months. How's that make you feel?
You know what? It makes me very sad, but I think it creates a great opportunity for KCMO Talk Radio, a new sponsored segment each week so everybody can get good, common sense, moderate Democratic takes. I think the public will love it.
Okay, well, I'll get them on that. So let's start with a moderate Democratic take. If you've got one, I have not seen you publicly comment on what happened yesterday in Minneapolis. What is your response to what took place there between a woman who had ties to Kansas City, apparently lived here for a period of time a couple of years ago, and was shot and killed by an ICE agent yesterday?
You know, I think I'm going to focus, and I may put something out a little bit later, but I'm going to focus on the loss of life. Look, it's a tragedy, full stop. I have been a police commissioner now for almost 7 years. Anytime there's a loss of life, it is something that we grieve about and that we regret. And I think that could at least be one unifying central message. I look forward to a full investigation from the authorities, both the state authorities in Minnesota and the city of Minneapolis Police Department. I understand the FBI is looking at it as well. I think it is far too early for, and I saw a statement from the Secretary of Homeland Security who called the Victims Act an act of domestic terrorism. Tragically, I've seen the video, many of you have as well, but I'm just going to focus on the loss of life. And, and I would just hope, and I say this as somebody who spends a lot of time with local law enforcement. They work very hard in my city to not go out and act like cowboys, to not have these types of incidents, and you never want something to end like that. I hope that's something that's reaffirmed of all of our federal agents, including these ICE agents all around America.
From a pure leadership perspective, I mean, I know that you mayors interact and see each other. This guy up there, Jacob Fry, I mean, he's a piece of work no matter which side you're on. Here's part of what he said yesterday. And just from a pure mayoral leadership perspective, I want to get your response to what he said here.
To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
Is that at all helpful, Mr. Mayor, right now?
I know Jacob. I've spent time with him. We've broken bread and actually been on a few panels together over the years. He's had a lot come his way. From George Floyd to this incident, it seems like a whole lot of things are happening in Minneapolis lately. There was a school shooting not that long ago as well. I'm not going to stand in the shoes of another mayor and see how they'll react. I know how I would. I have not typically used that type of language, at least in terms of an incident that has this level of heightened tensions. I think that's how I would proceed, but I'll leave it to the people of Minneapolis, Mayor Fry and others to do it. But you know what? It's a community that was aggravated in pain. Someone who you don't give credit to a lot, perhaps, is Governor Tim Walz, who I did see a posting that told everybody to make sure that they remain calm, that they don't create more of an incident and more concerns in Minneapolis, and I stand with the governor in terms of agreeing to that.
Mayor Quinton Lucas is joining us on KCMO. Let's bring it back to Kansas City, Mr. Mayor. One of the positive trends out of last year, I know it's not where the goals are right now when it comes to the homicides, but they are continuing to come down the last couple of years. But there was I saw this issue. No one died, but I did see that there was a shooting at 31st and Brooklyn the other night at a gas station. There are some considerations for trying to figure out how to prevent these things ahead of time from happening at some of these locations. And you're looking at maybe ordinances that address drug and alcohol sales at gas stations. What is the goal there, and how would that actually be implemented?
Yeah, very simply. I mean, look, Kansas City, I was talking to some cops about this yesterday. Kansas City is not an inherently violent city. And you go to all these places and you see kind of calm in some places, but then you recognize where a lot of the incidents occur. And a lot of those, and we talked about parking lots over the summer, and people went all types of crazy about it. But you have a lot of issues at some of our gas stations and others. Some of it relates to, single-serve liquor sales. So people walking around with 40s, they get drunk, and some of them, they just stand outside all day, loiter. You have all types of behavior that relates to that. You get fights, you get shootings sometimes, you get other concerns. Same thing increasingly with a lot of these gas station drugs that you have sold. And I know there is a world of disagreement, but I met yesterday with a woman, a mother who lost a son, who became incredibly addicted to that, who said this was 1,000 times worse than when he was addicted to opioids. Her son is no longer here. That's something you're getting at a gas station in Kansas City. And so what we're trying to say is, look, maybe you can get all the 40s and all the kratom and everything else that you want in some other jurisdiction, and maybe they can deal with all of that. But in Kansas City, you don't need to. And I think that's the sort of legislation that we're looking to. I think it's going to be important for us. And frankly, I think it'll make us safer. So somebody who's going to a corner store, somebody who's picking up and filling up some gas can be safe, and you don't have the types of incidents that you all have to report regularly in Kansas City that we have all known for way too many years.
Now, speaking of when it comes to law enforcement and, of course, trying to make sure that you get the bad guys off the streets and you have the right ordinances in place, the World Cup's a few months away. This temporary jail, I saw, is going to cost an extra $4 million. So we're up to $26 million on the temporary jail project. I think that there's probably two schools of thought here. One, long overdue, it's great. But that's a hefty price tag for something that's really for 8 weeks. So is there some way to use this beyond the World Cup? Is that part of the plan to justify the cost here?
The short answer is absolutely yes. I think that City Council has largely discussed the fact that you can convert what is being built as a modular facility into something that becomes more permanent long-term. And I think that it would be a waste of taxpayer funds if not only we didn't evaluate that, but I think we've done sufficient evaluation to lay out a pathway for that. I mean, one thing I appreciate about you, Pete, and you always do this, which is that, and frankly, that's what I grew up thinking conservatives do, is you ask questions about, what the taxpayers are actually spending at the end of the day. And, this modular jail discussion came up because a bunch of people said, hey, yeah, you can get a $5 million jail from a trailer in Springfield and it's, going to work. And I think some of us had skepticism from the jump, but we all saw that wasn't true. Fortunately or unfortunately, we have funds already appropriated to redo the top floor of KCPD headquarters. We transferred these funds to this. This, however, presents us with a strong opportunity, which is that you've got the land, right? You're already building the structure. And frankly, you got to have a structure, even if it's temporary, that won't get blown over by a tornado, right? That has heating and cooling, that has all the things that are necessary to it. So I actually think what will be important for Kansas City taxpayers is that we say, how do we make this into something permanent, which gives us a faster delivery on a permanent facility for the city of Kansas City, frankly addresses our public safety goals and gets us to move beyond at least this part of the detention conversation that Kansas City has been in for the last several years, and I think reversing a mistake that was made by predecessors of mine, destroying the municipal farm in 2009 and closing the 8th floor detention headquarters in 2015, which prior to that had been open for 75 years.
Now, did you vote to close that in 2015, though, when you were on the city council?
I did not. That was I believe it was a KCPD decision that had been made previous to that. Granted, all the police buildings are city-owned facilities, so there was probably some council ordinance, but it related to the renovations at the police headquarters and this view that I think PD at the time, the then chief, Stero Forte, wanted to get out of the detention business. I understand that point. I think that, however, we've created a few more challenges over the past several years. And looking forward, I hope we all have a chance to move ahead. I have a great relationship with now Sheriff Forte, who I think is doing a good job as we lay out the permanent facility in Jackson County. But, things change over the years. That's what happens. But hopefully we get addressed all these detention issues now.
Mayor Lucas is here on KCMO, our first conversation of the new year on 95.7 FM, streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. All right, I can't start off a New Year conversation without really picking up where we left off, and that's talking about these stadiums because, well, it's still a part of the conversation, whether we like it or not. The Royals, where have the city of Kansas City's conversations been with the Royals, as it looks like Kansas yesterday announced from Speaker of the House Dan Hawkins that they're done negotiating with the Royals. That maybe leaves them on the Missouri side. The question is Kansas City going to stay the home of the Royals?
Well, look, let me tell you something. Slow and steady wins the race. And so you had Speaker Hawkins on the news yesterday, I think, giving up information about them asking for negotiations after the deadline. I am reading about a Clay County commissioner who almost wrote a jilted lover kind of letter of I'm leaving you before you leave me. It's not the sort of thing that I do. Right. And what I have said throughout this process, Kansas City, the city of Kansas City is a professional organization. We have never stopped having discussions. I have watched with interest the ups and downs and everything else, frankly, Pete, that's happened in every other jurisdiction but ours. And by the way, we're not letting grass grow underneath our feet. We just actually have real business-like discussions with these folks, both the Royals and the Chiefs. I'm not going to tell you location. I'm not going to tell you anything new, but I will tell you these two things. One, Kansas City continues to be in robust conversations with the Kansas City Royals. What we hear one day in Kansas or one day in North Kansas City or one day and who knows where does not change what we're doing. So I've had a lot of reporters stick a microphone in my face and say, well, yeah, is Kansas done? I'm like, I don't know. And frankly, I'm going to proceed as if there's still a very viable option. There are still real estate interests who want to sell land. There are still people who want to make money. And wherever there is someone who wants to make money on a transaction by having a big old stadium on their property or next to them, this will continue. So the Speaker of the Kansas House can say what he wants, but I think there'll be real estate interests that continue to talk to the Kansas City Royals there. Same story with if there's a commissioner in Clay County or anywhere, right? I think that continues. So for Kansas City, like we tell our children, right, we're just going to keep doing the work that we need to do. We're going to make sure we're ready to compete, and I think that will continue. And let me say something briefly about the Chiefs as well. You know, you continue to just frankly hear more complication in connection with that deal. And we haven't talked in a little while, but probably what's most interesting to me, you know, you heard discussion of how much better it is to deal with Kansas because you just talked to one party. But frankly, now you're seeing you got to talk to a lot more. There are a lot more questions. I think there are questions about the viability of the deal long term. And to something that Governor Kehoe said, I think several weeks ago, until the moving trucks are gone, we haven't actually closed consideration there. And so it's not, no, we're not spending every day of our lives working on it and all of that. But Kansas City will make sure it is a strong option if the Chiefs deal falls through. And certainly for the Kansas City Royals, I believe we are by far the best option. I've thought that for years, and I think that's kind of coming to fruition now.
Have you had any direct conversations with the Chiefs over the last 3 weeks or no?
I won't create any problems for them. I believe they have an exclusive negotiation agreement.
Got it.
There are certainly ways for things to be known in the world, but I ain't creating any problems. I don't need a tortious interference with business expectancy lawsuit from the state of Kansas.
Okay, fair enough. All right, but then here's the other thing with the Royals in particular. And you've seen, and listen, people know where I stand on this. A lot of the criticism on the Kansas side in terms of what this may ultimately mean for the taxpayer. The fear I think Missourians and Kansas Cityans should have right now is, are you guys, in an effort to try to keep the Royals because of what's happened with the Chiefs, going to basically bend over backwards for this team in a deal that's bad for the taxpayer? So I don't like doing two-part questions, but number one, how do you keep the taxpayer first and foremost in this? And number two, and I want to get number two answered first because it's a yes, no. Do you promise if they stay in Kansas City to make sure this thing somehow goes to a vote of the people?
No is the answer. And then as to the first one, I think that, and I've taken a whole lot of flack, and you've seen it and all of that. The day the Chiefs deal was announced, everybody was saying what a failure of Kansas City included, even though the Chiefs aren't even our tenant. And certainly Jackson County's had its issues over the years. And then I think as the days have gone by, people have seen fundamentally, and I think to a person, it is very hard for somebody to say that Kansas deal is fair and transparent to the taxpayer in Northeast Kansas, and particularly the taxpayer in certain jurisdictions. I think what you will see over the next several months is them try to perhaps refashion a deal that looks like a level of fair, but it won't be. And so I think what you will have in Kansas City, Missouri, I promise this, and frankly, this is what we've discussed on the somewhat publicly discussed Chiefs deal, is that we are looking to truly do what has been described in some of the other areas. Users pay for the stadium. Users and surrounding development. And surrounding development is not 290 square miles. Surrounding development isn't the entire state of Missouri, let's say. Surrounding development is what pays for it. And to the extent that we put in any other infrastructure dollars, anything like that, there will be clarity in it. So, no, I continue to stand by the fact that I don't think we need a vote in Kansas City, Missouri. We're the biggest city in the region. And big cities and regions can do things like build stadiums. We've done that before without a vote with CPKC Stadium on the riverfront. Smaller but similar. Now $1 billion development project. We do that all the time with jails, other facilities, many of which cost north of $100 million, and some of which, like a water treatment plant, will cost probably about $1.5 billion. So Kansas City can get things done. We're going to do that. We're going to be responsible to the taxpayers. We're going to tell you all about it. But what you won't see at the end is a show me bond that no one's heard about, that no one knows about, that no one has information about, that costs 2 or 3 times the cost of what you're estimating. We're going to be fair to the Royals, fair to our taxpayers, and I think this will help us get a deal done soon.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Happy New Year. Thank you again for being here, and we will talk to you next week. Have a great day.
Hey, take care, everybody.
All right, Quinton Lucas on KCMO Talk Radio. 913-408-7957. He would not promise, though, that a potential Royals Stadium deal, if in Kansas City or Jackson County, would go to a vote of the people, which kind of confirms a Kansas City Star report from the other day that says basically Kansas City is looking at ways to try to get a deal set up for the Royals that does not include the voter, because that was always one of the most appealing parts of Kansas, along with, of course, the upwards of 70% of the stadium costs being handled by the state. Interesting. 913-408-7957. First conversation with Mayor Lucas of the new year. The text to win keyword to go meet and see Riley Green at Stagecoach. Airfare, everything is included, is STAGE. That's STAGE to 95819.
from Lenexa to Lee Summit. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Just wrapped up our first conversation with Mayor Lucas in 2026. I haven't done it yet, but I keep wanting to say 2025. But 2026, first conversation with the mayor of Kansas City. And one thing he alluded to there that came out of yesterday's news cycle was a Clay County commissioner, Jason Withington, coming out on social media and saying, I loathe the business of baseball. Like Kansas, I'm done negotiating with the Royals. We worked in good faith for November of 2025 and then April of 2026. What he means by that is we worked in good faith to try to meet the deadline to get the Royals on a ballot in Clay County. Because the deadline for November of last year was like August, and the deadline for April of this year for the ballot is like right around now. He says it's today. We'll see. Mm-hmm. He goes on to say that the Royals are not ready for either. At some point, you stop negotiating. Jason's been on the show. Good guy. Trust me, he ain't making the call on this. I'll just say that much.
Well, and his comment that he loathes the business of baseball is coming from a person who considers himself a baseball fan and a Royals fan, and so this has soured his view rather than him just coming out going, I don't like baseball.
Yeah.
No, he's a fan who's kind of soured on this whole process, and so that's why he loathes the business of baseball.
How could you not have soured on the whole process?
Right.
I mean, I don't care if you're a fan or you're not a fan or you like the Royals or you like the Cardinals. I mean, the Royals have been their own worst enemy in this entire stinking process. They've pissed off fans and politicians and people that don't even care. Like, seriously, who have they ingratiated themselves to and with at this point? Nobody. In fact, their best friends at this point might be the folks in Kansas City, Missouri, like Quinton Lucas, just because they don't want to lose the other team. It's a bad look all around. I mean, you could not put together a worse campaign for your PR department than what the Royals have done. And whether it's been on purpose or whether it's been by accident or whether it's been because they just don't know what to do. I mean, you have just shot yourself in the foot time after time after time with the way you've handled this process. And I just think everybody's fed up with them. And that just doesn't bode well for them. When Kansas is saying we're done, and Missouri, you got to get a vote, although the mayor just said we might try to keep them in Kansas City without a vote of the people, which tells you a lot as well. News coming up in 2 minutes. What is Emmanuel Cleaver saying about yesterday in Minneapolis? We'll share with you next. It should not surprise you with the way Emanuel Cleaver, Kansas City congressman, has reacted to yesterday's tragedy in Minneapolis. The Kansas City congressman, Emanuel Cleaver, 5th District, writing here on X. The actions of ICE are beyond disturbing. They are also a tragic result of the administration's reckless, aggressive, extreme, and intentionally inflammatory mass deportation policies. Congress must immediately initiate an investigation into this horrifying killing of a civilian. Something tells me I can't find a tweet from Emanuel Cleaver saying that about Ashley Babbitt. But I could be wrong. I know I'm not, but I could be wrong about that.
You must have moved.
Okay. All right. That's Emanuel Cleaver's response to this incident in Minneapolis yesterday. And, of course, it's something that does end up having, and this is something we found out yesterday, Kansas City ties to it. And it's just crazy to think that Minneapolis, which has been the center of the political conversation over the last really 2 weeks at this point, you have the daycare allegations. You have Tim Walz announcing he's not running for re-election. You have, here in Kansas City, this guy who was shot in the Lawrence City Hall and got killed a couple of days ago was coming down from Minnesota on a Greyhound bus. He gets kicked off the bus for erratic behavior, and then he ends up in the Lawrence City Hall on Monday morning, intruding, and he gets shot and killed. And now you have this. And you have Kansas City ties to this story as well, because the woman, 37-year-old Renee Good, lived in Kansas City in the last couple of years, changed her name here in Kansas City in late 2023, and had her Missouri plates on the Honda Pilot when she was shot and killed by the ICE agent yesterday. So it is beyond bizarre how our two communities have had a lot in common with some of these big stories over the last couple of days. But I've watched this video now another dozen times since we got on the air at 6 o'clock. And many of you on the text line have sent me different angles and screenshots and everything else. And I've watched it at full speed. I've watched it in slow motion. I've watched all of it. And the whole thing makes me queasy. Even though I firmly believe, and it's not even a belief of mine, it's a fact, that this woman broke the law on multiple occasions in the minute leading up to her death. What still bothers me is not that the ICE agent shot into the car when he turns around and suddenly there's a 3,000-pound weapon coming at him. It was the shots after the fact, through the side view mirror, where I'm like, okay, is that just in the moment, adrenaline's going a million miles an hour, you were almost run over by a vehicle, and then you shoot in through the side view mirror? I don't know. I have not been in that situation. I'm also not judging law enforcement in that spot. But what I am saying is that if there's a part of the video that makes me uneasy, it's that part. And those shots might not have mattered. I mean, she may have already passed with the first shot. We don't even have all the information right now. But I'm certainly not going to go out there and attack all of ICE over this. I mean, ICE has been on the receiving end of protests, of vigilantes, like what this woman was yesterday, by politicians at the highest level. They have been on the receiving end time after time over the last 12 months for doing nothing other than their job. Let's be very clear. You may not like what they're doing. You may not like the administration's policies, but nothing they've done has been illegal. They have done their job. And they have been vilified for it. They have been doxxed for it. Some of them have had their families at risk. They have to hide their identities. They have been on the receiving end as an organization of more hate and more nastiness than any other organization in this country in the last year. So I have an incredible amount of sympathy and empathy for what ICE has been dealing with. Heck, you had the situation in Dallas a couple of months ago, right? Guy's on a rooftop. He's trying to kill two ICE agents. He ends up killing the detainees, not the agents. But, I mean, these guys have been, and gals have been through a lot over the last year. But that's a different conversation from saying, okay, did the agent act fully on the up and up yesterday? And that in no way is defending what this woman was doing. In no way whatsoever. 913-408-7957. Let's go to the phone. Steven's in Johnson County. Steven, good morning.
Hey, Doc, how's it going?
Hey, it's good, man. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Listen, sometimes people don't have a problem with what's being done. They have a problem with where it's coming from and the person is doing it. Emmanuel Cleaver, he was one of the main reasons why I moved out of Kansas City and moved to Johnson County like I did, because when he was mayor, he was the same way. It's hard for me as a black man to believe in a lot of our urban leaders because their mindset is a victim mentality, and they benefit off you being a victim. That's why he does the things he does. He didn't speak about Lincoln Riley when the mess went down with her, but they benefit off the black community being ignorant. They depend on your ignorance to stay in control. They don't tell you nothing. They don't show you nothing. And I'm really disappointed in him as a leader and more so as a pastor, because you ought to know better. There's some things that just are clearly just wrong. And what happened yesterday, that woman was dead wrong in what she done. And I don't know what else, look, if you can't depend on your urban leaders, what can you depend on as a black man?
Well, but here, I don't think any of us should depend on our leaders by and large. I think that they're there and we got to vote for them and you got to pick somebody. But no way I don't go through my day-to-day life being like, boy, my leaders on a daily basis are letting me down. Hopefully they're out of sight, out of mind. That's when politicians are generally at their best.
Yeah, but when I look at people like him, it just
listen. But how about this? It's more about. This is kind of a separate conversation, but it's more about these guys overpromising, right? Like they're going to fix all your problems in the urban core, and they never do it.
Most definitely.
But here's the other thing. To your point, Stephen, part of Emmanuel Cleaver's statement was, quote, "They are also a tragic result," meaning what happened yesterday in Minneapolis, of the administration's reckless, aggressive, extreme, and intentionally inflammatory mass deportation policies. At the very least, if you're being intellectually honest, you would have to place some of the blame on the woman for her actions. You have to. She put herself in a horrible spot, and whether or not that should have resulted in her getting killed, that's a debate, but man, you can't absolve her of all responsibility in this, and that's what Emmanuel Cleaver just did.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And then that's where they go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Let's go to Steve. Go ahead, Steve. You're on KCMO.
Hey, how's it going? So on the we got the officer continuing to shoot at that lady in the SUV.
Mm-hmm.
There's a saying consistently across sports and stuff: action beats reaction. Once his mind goes into that action mode and starts shooting, his mind has to process when she is no longer a threat, and he's not going to stop shooting until his brain processes that she's not a threat. So, totally justified for shooting, from the side of the vehicle.
Well, that's where. Thank you very much, Steve. That is where I admit I struggle, because it's easy for me to say, as someone who has never served in law enforcement, that these side mirror shots seem excessive, even if she's already dead by then. However, to your point, I can't fathom being in that situation and how your mind and body go into fight or flight. I remember when I was brought up to the KCPD training center up in the Northland, it must have been 4 or 5 years ago at this point. And I did some of the training sessions that they do up there. And one thing that, just blew me away is that, we did this like mock. We're in this dark room. We got this projector screen. I'm standing there side by side with a Kansas City, Missouri police officer, and we're going through different scenarios and situations. And one of them is we go into a backyard. We both got like fake guns. We're looking at this projector screen. And this guy's got a knife. He's in his backyard. He's going a little crazy. He's got a knife, right? And the guy's like 20 feet away. Not a gun. He's got a knife. And if that guy starts running after you, you've got, and I'm just ballparking here, I think it's like 2.5 or 3 seconds, that guy with a knife can close that 20-foot gap on law enforcement or anybody for that matter. You don't think that. When you're just a regular citizen like most of us are, you don't think about how quick that 2.5 seconds goes for you to make a decision. And that's basically what happened yesterday. And ever since I went through that training, I've reserved judgment on law enforcement even when certain things may seem excessive. The most controllable thing in this entire tragedy yesterday in Minneapolis, and that's what it is, it's still a tragedy. The most obvious thing you can point to is a woman who tried to be a vigilante, got in the way of law enforcement, resisted arrest, and then tried to evade law enforcement officers. That is the most obvious, most black and white part of the whole story. 913-408-7957. That's how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Paul in Kansas City. What's up, Paul?
Hey, Pete. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a tragedy what happened yesterday, but I want to focus on the police chief of Minneapolis. This guy should be fired immediately. When he got up there and he said, we predicted this would happen, why wasn't that put into your threat assessment? Why did you not send your police officers, your local law enforcement, to help these federal law enforcement so this wouldn't happen? I'm watching right now a protest going on, and there's not one Minneapolis police officer, not one Minnesota state trooper. These federal agents are fighting these protesters right now. He should be held accountable, and it's despicable as a former law enforcement agent myself as military police that they're not helping these brother law enforcement protect themselves.
I appreciate it, Paul. Thank you, my man. Have a great day. You're right about that. I mean, you'd think law enforcement would be on the same page with the federal folks, but it seems like that's not happening right now. Coming up, there was a big announcement yesterday on the housing front, and I don't know what's going to come of it, but I'm encouraged by it. And I think no matter what your political stripes are, I've seen a lot of people across the aisle cheering this. It got buried yesterday by the Minneapolis News. We'll tell you what it is and why I think it's a big win coming up next.
On Thursday's Guy Benson Show, Trish McLaughlin of the Department of Homeland Security reacting to the shooting incident in Minneapolis yesterday, coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
This is a big win. I don't care if you're in Kansas City, if you are somewhere else in the country right now listening on our KCMO Talk Radio app, you're listening on KCMOTalkRadio.com. It doesn't matter to me where you're at. This is something that I know today is all about protesting, tribalism. I'm looking right now live at Minneapolis where there are, these are not 2020 protests. They're not. There are, a couple hundred people who are protesting in Minneapolis in the wake of what happened yesterday. But can we all rally around this? President Trump announcing steps to ban large institutional investors from buying single-family homes. The president saying here in a statement yesterday, for a very long time, buying and owning a home was considered the pinnacle of the American dream. It was the reward for working hard and doing the right thing. But now, because of record high inflation caused by Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress, that American dream is increasingly out of reach for far too many people, especially younger Americans. It is for that reason and much more that I am immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes, and I will be calling on Congress to codify it. People live in homes, not corporations. That's what I'm talking about, big man. That's it right there. Woo! Now, if you want me to be a fair arbiter here, the increase in home prices really don't have anything to do with Joe Biden. Now, inflation, which was under Biden's watch, did increase interest rates, which obviously makes it more expensive to own a home and buy a home with interest rates being higher. But this has now been going on. Really, this is a nearly 2-decade problem. Going back to the 2008 Great Recession, we did not build homes at the pace that we needed to coming out of that. And then you've had a multitude of other issues over the last 15 years that have stacked on top of each other that have caused this crisis today, where a lot of young people, and I say this as a millennial who's fortunate to be in a home, but plenty of my peers I know are in this situation right now, that if you are a first-time home buyer, especially millennials or Gen Zers, under 40, let's say, it is out of control. This is not what it was when you go back to oftentimes our parents' generation. Even though, I'll hear Steve Moore come on the show, former economist for the president, who has said, hey, well, back in my day, the interest rate was 18%. Okay, yes, and the home as a percentage of the median income was a fraction of what it is today. And never mind when you start factoring in property taxes and insurance and things like that, it's just not even close. That's not to say that there aren't some people who are making excuses, but it's just a totally different environment. And while I don't believe this creates a panacea in the housing market, if institutional buyers are squeezed out, it's absolutely a step in the right direction. Now, I know my libertarian friends are not going to like this. I mean, Patrick Tuohy and I are on the same page on a lot of things. I know that he would say, hey, the free market's got to do what the free market's going to do. Let the institutional buyers buy up houses. That's not on the government to control. I disagree. I completely disagree. If the government is supposed to do anything, it's supposed to do what it can within reason to protect the American dream. And home ownership is a pillar of the American dream. If you feel like you can buy a home, if you feel like you can achieve that in life, it gives you motivation to do other things. It gives you motivation to go out there and improve your career and try to make more money. And as a result, you want to do what's best for your family. You want to get married. You want to settle down. You want to have kids. If you feel like you're a forever renter stuck in a shoebox 1 or 2 bedroom apartment and you feel like there's no way for you to achieve a part of that American dream, you give up. And you get attracted to even more big government. You get attracted to, I would argue, socialist policies. So I have seen people that disagree with me, and I'm sure many of you, on different political things, on a lot of stuff, but have been on the same page when it comes to this, when it comes to institutional buyers basically getting kicked out of the housing market. In Kansas City, it's about 2 to 3% of properties here that are owned by corporations and financial institutions. Not a ton, but it is enough to, I think, impact what's going on locally. Let's go to Alex in Linwood. Hey, Alex.
Hey, Pete, I don't think the big buyers really have that big of a deal to do with the housing. I think it's, we talked about taxes, we talked about insurance, we talked about all that kind of stuff. But I think another big problem is what people think a first-time home buyer house should look like. Back in the day, you could see in the newspaper articles that a first home was $8,000. A first-time home now, people have set their expectations so high because they're worried about what everybody else thinks about them.
I disagree. You tell me where you can get into a reasonably priced starter home in parts of Kansas City where you also would be willing to send your kids to, let's say, the public schools. I mean, it's going to run you at least $350,000.
No, that's what I'm saying is that starter homes, the price of them have gone up so much, and that is because the builders know that people aren't, they don't want a 1,200 square foot home that doesn't have a fully furnished basement with chandeliers and granite countertops.
I see what you're saying. Okay, I see what you're saying, Alex. And you're right about that. The Instagramification, I just made up that word, of young people is true. They want at 25 what maybe is more achievable at 45. There's definitely some of that going on. But I also think if there were builders that were more interested in going out there and building starter homes, there would be massive demand for them. And part of that is also to blame on local jurisdictions and the incentives they give to developers who just want to build apartments, which is a lot easier and oftentimes can be more lucrative. 913-408-7957. We'll get to your calls and then ask Mundo anything to end the hour.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO.
First, I thought I misread this on the TV screen in front of me here. I saw President Trump addressing, I thought I saw it as an address to the nation tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern time. But no, it's just an interview with Sean Hannity. So it's going to be Sean just talking is what it's going to be tonight with the President of the United States. But it is not an address to the nation. It is just an interview with Hannity tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central time. So we'll do Ask Mundo Anything, first one of 2026 coming up here in 10 minutes. Whatever you want to ask. It's a free-for-all, okay? End of the 8 o'clock hour every Thursday morning here on KCMO. I got to give the Kansas City Star a little bit of love here, a little bit of credit. I know I like to goof on them quite a bit. All right, I know I did.
Fake news.
I got to call it both ways here with the Kansas City Star. But I'll give them this. This is some good reporting. Kansas has a special law that says stadium star bond talks can be kept secret. So this week, the unified government denied the Kansas City Star's request for records related to non-disclosure agreements among local officials. The state and the team signed leading up to the announcement of a star bond project a couple of weeks ago. Documentation related to the project will remain confidential and will not be available through the Kansas Open Records Act until the parties execute an agreement, according to the bond agreement state legislators moved forward last month. The bond agreement attributes that confidentiality to a Kansas state statute specifically designed for star bond projects involving a major professional sports franchise. Think about this. The Kansas state legislature created a way for the public to know as little as possible about this star bond project as it relates to stadium projects, John.
Ergo, when Governor Kelly says that the border war doesn't include the Chiefs, I guess this is what she was referring to, huh?
Might be part of it. This is just filthy.
Premeditated, sir.
This is filthy. I mean, listen, I haven't touched the issue all morning, and I'm not going on beyond like the next couple of minutes on this, okay? But I don't care if you are rah-rah Chiefs going to KCK. Admit it's filthy. I'm not trying to change the outcome, as someone alleged on my Facebook page yesterday. Pete, you're trying to change the outcome. No, I'll go to the new stadium. I will, okay? I'm not like one of these, I'll never go. I'm a Kansas resident. I'm not a Missourian. But man, don't tell me you care about what your politicians are doing behind closed doors and then pick and choose when you freak out about a lack of transparency. This is it. This is gross. And it's not one political party that's being gross right now in Kansas. It's both of them. It's the establishment. It's the left. It's the right. They all came together on this one, which makes you wonder, who can you really trust? That is wild stuff. They have a specific clause they passed in the legislature that allows them to keep all of this stuff confidential per a state statute for star bond projects, not any star bond project, but a star bond project involving a major professional sports team, which means they wanted no part of journalists, of the media, of the public, knowing anything about this deal for as long as possible. When you are denying open records requests. Wow. Man, that is just next level. Next level, man. And anytime politicians don't want you to know something, if you're not asking why, then you are just blinded by your bias. All right? It doesn't matter how you feel about this deal. If you point blank look at this and say to yourself, my politicians don't want me to know about this? That's a little sketch, is it not? Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. In the meantime, we are monitoring protests right now with federal agents in Minneapolis. That is happening today after what took place yesterday, where a woman was shot and killed. She was clearly playing vigilante justice. She was clearly getting in the way of ICE doing its job. And then she resists arrest, tries to pull her car out of the situation, and ends up getting shot and killed. Well, I look at this video over and over and over again, and I wonder if there would have been a way for this person to not get killed. Because that's what we should all want. We don't want people getting killed, even though we can readily admit that this lady was wrong in what she was doing. By the way, she spent time here in Kansas City. She had Missouri plates. Her car was registered here as of 2023. The whole thing's just a massive tragedy. And now, listen, I don't believe these protests are going to be George Floyd-esque. I just don't. And there's two reasons for that. And you might not like the answers, at least to one of them. One, she's white. Two, it's Minneapolis in January. They're not going to be out there all hours of the day, all hours of the night. I mean, in the end, these people have to go get their Starbucks coffee to warm up, okay? They just have to. That's a fact.
Caribou coffee up there.
Is that what it is?
That's what they do, yeah.
They're what? They're not Starbucks fans?
No, they're Caribou. That's the Minnesota thing, yeah.
Caribou Coffee? Is that like a regional chain?
I believe it started up there.
They got some weird food habits up there, huh? They really do.
Yeah, we do have a few down here.
What do they like? They like their bundt cakes and they like their Caribou Coffee, I guess, right? That's their thing.
And hot dish.
Eh?
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know they handle the cold better than we do and better than most of the country does, but they are not going to be out there hours upon hours upon hours protesting this. They're just not. I mean, unless George Soros doubles his rate, pays overtime, time and a half, hazard pay for the cold, it's not going to happen. But Britt Hume does a great job, of course, senior political analyst on Fox News, just a voice of reason last night, commenting on what was going on up there in Minneapolis and what continues into today.
Well, I don't think I've seen the conflict between the federal government and the states as intense as this since the civil rights movement in the 1960s, when southern states were trying to block enforcement of civil rights laws and the rest of it. This is intense. I mean, these agents, these ICE agents, had every right to be there. Indeed, one might argue they had a duty to be there. They are this nation's enforcer of the immigration laws. They certainly would like, as you heard her say, cooperation from local and other officials. But this is their job. And there's no evidence here that they weren't doing their job or doing it properly. And the way that these local officials are acting is extraordinary. And the statement that mayor made, laced with obscenities, telling the agents to get the F, and he didn't say F, out of Minnesota, is something we haven't seen in a very long time indeed. I can't believe that across the country this will sit well with the public.
And that's even why I think Tim Walz, who said a lot of ridiculous stuff yesterday, the governor of Minnesota, he did say in a statement and publicly, hey, if you're going to protest peacefully. Even Britt Hume knows that, frankly, when you look at all of Trump's policies, there are some that are not popular with the public, but one of the strongest policies the president does have the American people's backs on, or they have his back on, is his handling of the immigration issue, shutting down the border, and then, yes, deportations. That is one of his stronger policy items when you look at general polling. And I think most people are going to see this video. Like, I showed it to Kate last night. I admitted I was kind of struggling with it. I'm like, okay, was that necessary? Was that really, hey, you know what? That person's life is at risk. Now, it's easy for me to hindsight 2020 that, or Monday morning quarterback and then say, hey, dive out of the way, like a Tom Cruise movie. It's easy for me to say that. And sometimes I get caught up in the nuance, and she looks at it, and, she rightfully says, looks like she made a lot of mistakes and broke a lot of laws leading up to that. It's like, yeah, that's indisputable. If you want to just start from scratch and say, what are the facts? You have somebody who broke multiple laws leading up to that. Does that mean the outcome was justified? I don't know. I do know this. You break several laws in the span of 60 seconds, you are putting yourself at great risk for tragedy to unfold. It's the same thing I said about Ashley Babbitt, by the way. The lady who was the one person killed on January 6th. Did she deserve to die jumping through a window at the Capitol building? Probably not. But if you do stupid things and you break laws, you are heightening your risk of really bad things happening. Coming up next, Ask Mundo Anything. Our first one in, probably 3 weeks. I don't care what you ask me. These guys are just letting it rip. Let's have some fun with this segment. 913-408-7957. That's 913-408-7957. Ask Mundo Anything on a Thursday morning next.
from Leawood to Liberty. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
All right, it's 8:49 on KCMO Talk Radio on a Thursday morning. It's great to have you here, 913-408-7957. Let's roll it, our first one of the new year.
It's time to Ask Mundo Anything on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
All right, you get to ask whatever you want. I don't care what it is. I mean, within reason, I guess, right? Like anything else. FCC compliant, family friendly, as best as you can. 913-408-7957. Let's start with John in Topeka. John, what do you got for me? Good morning.
Morning, Pete. Your blowtorch 95.7 is firing away up here north of Auburn, Nebraska, and it's coming in loud and clear, and it's awesome. So
Auburn, Nebraska. Never heard of it, but now I'm a fan. Oh, there it is. Population 3,500 there in Southwest Nebraska or Southeast Nebraska on 95.7 FM. I wish we got to Southwest Nebraska, but I'll take Southeast. That's good stuff. Thanks, John.
Right on. But what do you think the Republicans need to do to actually pick it up and turn it around in 26 to keep from losing the midterms? Because everybody's talking about how the Democrats are going to run away with it. I like to keep my optimism, but I'm also a realist, and I realize that, hey, President Trump and the Republicans need to do something now. What are the things do you think are necessary for them to turn this boat around?
It's all about the economy, stupid. If people feel better about the economy, the Republicans have a chance. I'm with you, John. It's going to be very difficult for them to hold the House. I think they'll be fine in the Senate because the makeup of the seats that are up in the Senate lean their way, so that's a good thing. If you want to see him hold, obviously, the Senate. If you don't, then it's not a good thing. But it's going to be all about how people feel about the economy. And that's why Trump also, and you're hearing this from J.D. Vance and others, they're trying to buy time right now. They're saying, guys, our policy is going to take some time to really get working. But you're seeing gas prices. Fox 4 had the story last night. Gas prices down to, $2.40-something on average in the Kansas City area. Keep those things coming down. That will impact the rest of the economy. Keep inflation at the very least below 3% year over year, and hope that you do get that economic takeoff in quarters, probably maybe Q2, Q3 into Q4. That's what it's going to be about. If those policies that they say are going to work start to work, they got a chance. If we're still kind of in this sticky inflation phase, it's going to be difficult. And that's really what it comes down to. Thanks so much, John. Let's go to Barbara in Overland Park.
Ask Mundo Anything.
Go ahead, Barb. Barbara. You're on KCMO. Maybe you're not.
I am. I accidentally hit the silence. I would like to say that I think the mainstream media is part of the problem. They do not tell the truth. They lie. They twist stories. They don't tell good news. But another thing I don't understand, Pete, and maybe you can tell me why this is not happening. If you go and you DuckDuckGo and read the Communist Party's 45 goals to destroy the United States, you will see that the Dems have been following these goals. And it makes me sick that people don't know about it. I don't understand why we can't.
Barbara, what's your question?
Well, my question is, why can't we fight a little bit more and show somehow what they are trying to do to the country?
I mean, I don't know, Barbara. I think we're doing plenty of that. Lonnie in Pleasant Hill.
Ask Mundo Anything.
We're doing our best. Go ahead, Lonnie.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Really love everything that you guys do, that you speak about, your content. But my one question as a conservative and a Christian is, why does your station have a sponsor that supports gambling, this sports gambling process, which doesn't really seem to fit with the conservative platform, gambling?
Well, I disagree with that. I mean, that's the answer. I mean, are we supposed to ban alcohol sponsors as well because some people can't do it responsibly? Where do you draw that line? I mean, people want to reach this audience. It's the fastest growing radio audience in Kansas City. It's not illegal. So you don't have to like it. And here's the beauty of it. you can choose which one of our advertisers you want to use and which ones you don't. It's really as simple as that. But, they happen to be good partners of the radio station. And, if it's not your thing, that's totally fine. I'm not judging you for that at all. And I hope you wouldn't judge them for running a legal business that, yes, some people do have problems with. I saw Dave Ramsey went on a rant about it the other day. But it's like everything else. I mean, there's a lot of things people can be addicted to. They can be addicted to food. Okay? We going to start policing that? Casinos? The list goes on. 913-408-7957. Let's go to Waldo.
Ask Mundo anything.
Libby, go ahead.
Hey, Pete. My question is, and I've been thinking about this for weeks, if at all any, what disability do you fear the most? And if you had that disability, would you be able to do your job?
Well, that's an interesting question, Libby.
Yeah.
I guess I would answer it by saying the disability I fear the most is the one that would not allow me to do my job, and that is the disability of going mute, even though there's people around me that may appreciate that and may like that for a period of time. So
I think that's been wished on me a couple of times too.
But if you're talking about like just disabilities, I would, that is a great question.
Oh, well, if you couldn't hear.
Yeah. I mean, if you couldn't hear, same thing. If you go deaf, then can't do the job either. But I would say being a quadriplegic is the thing I fear the most. Being unable to move all four limbs of my body scares the you-know-what out of me. You literally, I mean, it's one thing, if you're in a wheelchair, you can at least move your arms and do something. But if I can't move I would just go nuts. I get antsy sitting at a dinner table for 20 minutes sometimes. So, that's where I'm at. That's an interesting one, though, Libby. No one's ever asked me that, so that's intriguing. All right, let's go to
Ask Mundo anything.
Tim in Lee Summit. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Pete, I was wondering if you were a fan of MTV. I'm a Gen Xer, and I remember watching it when I was a teenager.
I haven't watched MTV in about 20 years, but I'll tell you, yes. Yes was the answer back in the heyday of MTV, right? I don't know how old you are, but who didn't love MTV back in the 90s and early 2000s?
Yeah, I'm 57.
Okay. Yeah, you got me by about 20 years, but growing up, late 90s when TRL was getting going with Carson Daly, a bunch of my buddies went to TRL, by the way, because we grew up outside of New York City, and they would take the train in, and they probably went half a dozen times to TRL. Carson Daly got on TV, be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They'd skip out of school a little bit early in the early high school days, and they'd go to TRL. So, I mean, yeah, that was, I mean, we may differ on that based on our ages, but I would say the heyday of MTV, I don't remember the 80s on MTV, but late 90s, early 2000s, and then they start with all the TV shows, and they did Jersey Shore, right? That was them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Real life.
Oh, yeah. We were all in on Jersey Shore, too, back in high school.
Yep.
So those were the good old days. Oh, now I sound like John. All right, there you go. Ask Mundo Anything in the books. We've got more in the 9 o'clock hour, the latest from Minneapolis next.